would like to help me out by reading the 17 Club purpose statement? Somebody raise a hand before I hit share. I don't see any hands. It's going up on the screen. Uh, whose hand was that went up? Just Albert's hand. Go ahead, Albert. You got
It's
it.
Albert's. Okay. The 17 Club. We forge a brotherhood where no man walks alone. No potential is wasted, and every man is challenged to discover his purpose, develop his gifts, and live a life of significance. Together, we unlock the man, unleash the mission, and change the world.
I love it. I love it. Thank you, Albert. I appreciate that. And of course, I always remind everybody, when we're talking about changing the world, there's only one world we have control over. That's our personal worlds, the things that go on within our lives. And if we just focus on that and changing that world, making it the best world possible we can, then we're going to ultimately impact the other world, which we have very little control over, but we always have input. So we can always have input with it. So yeah, let's go out there and change the world. This past week, I'd asked everybody to read the chapter on faith. I hope you guys did read the chapter on faith in Think and Grow Rich, whether it be Think and Grow Rich, the original book, or Think and Grow Rich in 10 minutes, whichever way was easiest for you. There's also another version of in Napoleon Hill's book, Keys to Success, put out by the foundation many years ago. Wherever it comes from, gentlemen, what does faith mean to you? When we talk about faith in regard to our own personal lives, what does that mean to you? What does the word mean? Or something that came out from the reading? Anyone?
Faith to me is the epitome of understanding that what you believe will be achieved because you have
Yeah.
faith.
Yeah. I love that. I love that, Albert. You know what? Because so many people go immediately and guilty as charged. When I read Think and Grow Rich for the first time, I saw the chapter on faith. I thought we were going back to church. I was raised Catholic. I went to Catholic school. I was in church every weekend. And for whatever reason, I didn't want to read that chapter on faith because it was going to bring me back to those days. But I think Albert hit the nail on the head. Faith is a different type of faith. It could be religious, certainly nothing wrong with that, regardless of what your religion is. But it's more important, I think, from the book's perspective, is it's faith in our abilities to achieve whatever it is that we want to achieve. And the one statement that I seem to remember, it always comes top to mind when I talk about faith is, if you thought you could do something, then you can have faith in your ability to do it, because if you didn't have the ability to do it, you wouldn't have been able to think it. If you thought of it, you have to have faith that you can do it. And behind that faith, remember, if you couldn't do it, you wouldn't be able to think about it. It wouldn't be part of your makeup. Anyone else have a comment about faith? What'd you take from the reading? Go ahead, Leroy.
Yeah, I'm not sure I got this from the reading, but I got it from a little printout that I made earlier. And it struck me, you know, when you go out and plant seed in the ground, you plant in faith, but the faith is, you know, that the law of seed is, you know, you prepare your soil properly, you know it's going to grow. And that's, you know, so faith is, uh, it's not just blind faith, it's a knowing faith, knowing that it's going to work. And it kind of parallels with what Albert said, kind of the same, you know,
It's
we
it's
know it's
faith
going to succeed.
faith in the process, right?
Yeah.
And you just referenced if we plant a seed in the soil and it's at the right time of year and we nourish it with the right types of things, we know that it's going to grow. If we follow the system, follow the process, we know it's going to go. So, in regard to faith in this conversation, anything that we decide that we want to do, if we create a plan and it's a solid plan, and we follow the process, it's going to work regardless. Now, it may not work immediately, and that's where faith comes in, right? Because when you plant seeds, I mean, you plant a tomato today, you're not picking it tomorrow. But you know that if you wait long enough, you're going to have a fresh tomato to put in your salad or your meal or whatever. But you have to
Everything
wait.
has a gestation period.
That's right. Everything has a gestation period. Everything has a gestation period. And I was walking this morning. I'm listening on Audible. I'm listening to "The Obstacle Is the Way" by Ryan Holiday, pretty acclaimed Stoic writer. And he talks about, everything has to go through a process, and everything's going to happen in its time. And if we just keep the environment around us ripe for what it is we're trying to accomplish, it'll happen. It has to. If you continue to do what needs to be done, it's going to give you the result that you want. Now, he didn't say that there wouldn't be setbacks. He didn't say that things weren't going to get in the way. He didn't say it was going to happen tomorrow, and maybe it's not going to happen perfectly. But that's when some of the other laws come into play, like learning from adversity and defeat, right? When things don't work out, you get to take a step back, look at your plan, and see what needs to be adjusted. So there you go. Michael's got the book, Obstacle is the Way. How did I know you were going to have that book, Michael? It's
I am the obstacle.
I came to that conclusion many years ago that I too am the obstacle. And in reality, when you read a lot of Ryan's books, especially, but even Think and Grow Rich or any of the many books that Napoleon Hill wrote or the Foundation has put out, it's all about what we can do to accomplish what we want, right?
So-
Go ahead.
Got a question. Why do we need faith? Why do we think we need faith?
I believe
Or
that was a
search-
question. Come on, guys. Why do we need faith?
I think it's to have certainty
For what?
in a
What is
in
the
a
what
thing.
is this what does the certainty give you, Rob?
Gives you. So how can I explain this? So my version of faith, coming not using religion but using something that I used to do. So I used to jump out of airplanes in the Army, and before you jumped out of that airplane, you made sure everything was right with your chute, with your straps, and then you were checked by another individual to make sure everything was right, so that when you jumped out of the airplane, your chute opened. So faith in that process, faith that your chute is ready, you've done all your checks, the person that checked you has done all the checks, and then getting ready to step out that door, you have that certainty in your mind that chute's going to open. If you didn't think that chute wasn't going to open, there's no way you're going to go out that door.
Yeah.
So stepping out of that door, taking that step with certainty, it gives you that nudge, I guess. It gives you that push to go in a certain direction, go out the door. So that's where I was going to use Michael.
So is
I-
that, if I can question that for a sec, so is the faith enforced by those actions? Because at some point it moves from faith to certainty because you've checked it a number of times, right?
Right.
Because some people claim faith is belief in the unseeable. So
Mhm.
something you can't check.
Michael, I think, what I'm gathering from the questions you're asking, and one of the words specifically that you used, certainty. Even after we've checked things multiple times, in the example we're using, we've packed our own chute, we've checked it over and over to make sure everything was done correctly. Is it still certainty that it's going to open and do its job? Because see, my observation would be, we think it's certain, but how many people have died because the chute didn't open?
It's funny you mentioned that, Frank, because when you jump out, you have two chutes. You have your main chute, and then you have your reserve chute.
Yeah.
So
if
we're
that
hoping
chute
one of the
doesn't-
two is certainly going to open.
Yeah. So can't say you have too much faith because you got a reserve. Well, it might not. So I got my reserve here that will hopefully open if the main one doesn't go open.
So
Yeah,
I think my question still remains, guys, is what's the purpose of the faith?
does it give us power to persist? Does it give us hope that if we do all the right things, that everything's going to work the way that we want or the way that it should? Go ahead, Leroy.
How did you phrase the question? What was your original why do we need faith? Is that what you
What
asked?
is faith?
Or
What do we need it
what
for?
is
So it's two parts. What is it and what do we need
Yeah.
it for?
Yeah. I just some thoughts that came to my mind were like um it's not something we need, or it's just something we have, or uh is faith and belief the same thing? Like Carl Jung said, somebody asked him, do you believe in God? He said, no, I know. So is faith the faith and belief? Is that what gets you off the ground until
Yeah,
you
and
know?
I'm genuinely
But
asking the question, Leroy. Like,
yeah,
because
yeah.
I think it's such a, this is one of those things where in the personal development space, you get into these sort of amorphic terms, right? And
Hmm.
so if we can have the sort of slightly toe curling, uncomfortable conversation of going, but what the heck are we talking about?
Hmm.
Rather than using the term, I think the conversation moves from being surface, discussing faith as a concept, which is an opiate for us, and moving it into a practical term, right? Like, how do we actually manifest it, apply it, power with it? What's its purpose? What's it doing for us? Because in the end, the reason faith is such a common theme in all this personal development stuff is it's serving a specific purpose. And so, what is that purpose to you guys? I know what it is for me. I'm just curious what it is for you guys.
Yeah.
But
Emmanuel, you have your hand up. Go for it. Well, I'm sorry, Leroy. Did you have something to add?
Just on like faith isn't something you say you have, it's just something you have. You take action. It's faith without works, faith without action is not real faith. It and it's not sitting, and it's just like positive thinking. Sitting here saying I'm positive, I'm positive isn't going to make you positive. You got to have some action. There's got to be something behind it. Yeah. And I think is what you're trying to ask is, what is it deeper down rather than just the surface? So good question.
Yeah, it's a great question. It's a deep question. And
Yeah.
I can only imagine it's going to come up with multiple different answers. Emmanuel, go ahead.
Yeah, I think also I understand the purpose of faith as a kind of positive energy which helps us to have a mindset of pursuing our goals and vision with consistency and having that hope what we are working towards is eventually going to work.
Yeah, yeah. If we follow a certain process, what we're working for will eventually come to fruition, right? So I think, based on that, Emmanuel, I'm kind of thinking that faith is a belief,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's a belief. And it could be a belief in a religion, it could be belief in a philosophy. And by the way, what is belief in religion? It's a philosophy. We're believing in a philosophy, depending on what the label is that society has put on that specific thing. Think and Grow Rich is a philosophy. Napoleon's 17 Keys to Success, philosophies. If we adopt a philosophy and we work at it, we study it. Earl Nightingale says we can become masters at anything if we simply devoted 1 hour of study per day for 5 years. We could become a national expert in any field, regardless of where we start, if we just follow that 1 hour a day of studying in that topic. Well, that's a belief. I believe if I do this, I will eventually get to be that national expert, right? So I think, yeah, faith is a belief. If I do a certain thing, a certain other thing's going to happen. Go ahead, Rob.
yeah, something I do with Chat GPT is I'll take an idea, or in this case, the subject of faith, and I'll ask it to peel it back. Okay, peel it back again. I have it do a type of a root cause analysis, just drill this thing down to the ground, and it spit something out that was very interesting to me that I drilled down even further, which was emotional conviction. So faith is emotional conviction in something. It's against belief, but I thought that emotional conviction stood out to me because, that's love. Is faith love? Is because that's your faith faith is the whole reason we got involved in the Middle East and Iraq and Afghanistan, because they believe something, they have faith in something that tells them that we are the infidels, we are wrong. That's the extremist part of the faith. There's regular Muslim faith, which isn't so extreme, but what causes that violence is that Old Testament style Muslim. It's eye for an eye. If we were still doing eye for an eye, all of us would be in jail. So they're still in the Old Testament, but it's that faith. It's strong. It's like love, that emotional conviction.
Yeah, I love it. A love relationship, right? Love is a conviction, and it's having faith that a certain thing is going to happen. Stefano put in the chat, he said, I think about faith as a state of mind, as the principal engine that transforms desire into reality. Right. And interestingly enough, the Napoleon Hill Foundation puts out every day the Napoleon Hill Thought of the Day, and they were doing a series on each one of the chapters. And it's a good graphic, and I'm actually downloading each one of the graphics for future use. But it says faith gives life to desire. Desire becomes powerful when it is supported by faith. And the key takeaway is faith transforms desire into power. So it's very close to what Stefano is saying, is that, faith is the principle that transforms desire into reality, right? Anyone else? Hey, Rob, how are you? Rob's in the room.
Hey, gentlemen, glad to be here. Still at work.
Still at work. You're a working man. We appreciate you sharing some time with us.
But I appreciate you guys, and I appreciate everyone showing up as well. Okay. But
Thanks,
I'm in the
Rob.
background. I'm in the
All
background.
right, brother. All right, send us a chat if you got something to add. Another thing that shows up in this thought of the day that the foundation put out, believe before you see results. How many of us, and I know because many of us are entrepreneurs, how many of us have taken steps toward a certain desire because we believed that what we were pursuing was going to happen? We had belief in the results. If we just do the right things, it's going to occur. Go ahead, Michael. I see your hand up.
Yeah. So to me, I have always seen, no, I should not say it that way. I have come to see faith as the antidote to the poison of fear of the unknown.
Why do you see it as an antidote?
Because I see because technically I see the human experience as both a spiritual one and a chemical one. Right? So we're having a neurological experience. Our brains and our minds are interpreting the reality around us. And because of that fact, right, our deep mammalian brain wants us to simply live long enough to procreate and then walk off into the sunset. Right? Like that's like our species has been on this planet for somewhere around 3 million years. And our current societal experience is so short compared to that extensive amount of time, right? The human being has been wandering the planet, surviving and now thriving for a long time. Whether this is the first time we've done it, the seventh time we've done it, who knows? But the fact is we've done this a number of times, right? Like the human being is having an experience. And to me, the thing that keeps us often very safe, right, is this fear. I am scared to touch that. I'm scared to go there. I'm scared to jump from here. I'm scared to leap out of this airplane. I'm scared to do the thing. I don't know whether it's going to work or not. I'm scared to fall in love with this woman because I don't know whether she's going to actually love me back, or this person, right? I'm scared to enter into these, to devote this 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock hour of my life every week to this group of men because I don't know where it's going to go. Like I'm scared, I'm scared, I'm scared, I'm scared, I'm scared. And admitting that we're scared is something that men don't ever want to do. And yet we have to face fear every single damn day. And to me, faith is the antidote to that poison. Fear will keep me stuck on the couch, feeding myself, right, and sitting there safe in my environment because deeply rooted, my brain just is telling me to survive till tomorrow. That's the only goal you have. And so everything outside of that objective becomes an exercise of faith.
Yeah, and is that why, Michael, what a great perspective. Is that why statistically 95% of the people on earth live inside this little cube of life that they are safe in, they feel comfortable in, and they're not taking risks, they're not going outside the box, they're not expanding outside of their comfort zone because they're afraid of what might not happen, right? I might not
Yeah,
be able to do it. I might not be able to do what I'm trying to do. I don't. So faith is not only the antidote; it's also the opposite of fear.
that's
You
what I
know,
mean.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, fear is sitting there saying, "Hey, no, we're designed to do nothing more than to protect ourselves. Period.
yeah,
And if there happens to be some family members too, yeah, we're going to protect them too. But we come first because if we don't protect ourselves, we can't protect them. You
you
know, it's
bet.
at the end of the day, it's all about us. So if we live in that box, we do nothing
That's right.
except what is safe.
That's why so many people are repeating the same week of their lives, and 48 years later they wake up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right?
We have
It's and the thing we got to remember, and that's why, and so this is the other reason why there's the obstacle is the way, why there's Think and Grow Rich, right? Why I've got 74 books on my shelf that are all saying the same fucking thing.
yeah,
Set a goal, get off your ass. Like they're all saying this, it's the same objective. But the fact is the human mind is going to fight against all of it. So each one has their own recipe of creating the bread. But in the end, bread is bread, right? Whether it's I had this conversation on the weekend because a buddy of mine is mastering bread, and I'm like, dude, it's just freaking dope. And like some bread's flat, some bread's poofy, some bread's wide, some bread's got to sprinkle this. It's all damn bread. And but
it's
that's
bread.
how I see personal development. It's all bread. Right. And so the fact is that these are these different experts, geniuses that have their own recipe for just making bread. And human beings are so desperate to have somebody else give them the secret tool that's going to unlock how to make bread. But the power is in, I think, is in seeing it as just bread. Like this is just the process. And some people are going to be courageous enough and have enough faith that they can rise above what they're doing, right? And 95% of them are going to stay stuck.
Yeah,
Anyway, I'll get off my
yeah,
soapbox for a
yeah.
few minutes.
That's a scary number, right? 95% of the people on Earth will stay stuck. I didn't say in the U.S. or anywhere on the Earth because we're all subject to this same innate fear to come out of our comfort zone. Go ahead, Rob. I see your hand up, buddy.
Yeah, I'm thinking, and this is a great conversation, Frank. I took a leap for the gentlemen that don't know. I took a leap of faith almost a year ago and quit my very nice job, and went into a business venture with a then friend. It did not go well, to say the least. But that leap of faith, I think faith can be a teacher sometimes, because that leap of faith I took to quit my job, burn the boats, head out and down to where I headed, and 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 do what I did, and experience what I did, taught me so much about business I never knew. I got a crash course in small business and entrepreneurship, where now I have friends that are businessmen and starting businesses, and just it started this domino effect and put me in this situation right now today, where I have a pretty strong foundation. I'm still learning on business and wanting to start my own business. So that leap of faith taught me, gave me a set of directions, and placed me here to move in a new direction and use what I learned and move forward. So I think, and Napoleon Hill also said, when we talked about, one of the things he said when I was listening, he said, before you sell something to somebody else, you have to sell it to yourself. So you have to have faith in, you come with that approach, you're going to sell it eventually.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, if you don't have faith enough in it to own it yourself, how can you sell it to somebody else? When I briefly in the 80s, when I briefly sold insurance, one of the first things the managers had us all do was buy our own insurance policies if we didn't have it, right? Because if you're not going to buy your own product, how can you possibly sell it to somebody else? But that brings up a great conversation as well, is how do we feed our faith, right? How do we become faithful in the process, in the thing? in ourselves. So what is a process? And this is a question out to the group. What is a process that you have taken to feed your faith? It may be helpful to think about it in a different term, to feed your attitude. Prior to the call, I was talking to Leroy, and I grabbed a book off the shelf that I'm very proud of having because there's very few of them. It's Success Through Positive Mental Attitude, a very special edition. This edition was printed for W. Clement Stone's insurance company, and the foundation. I'm lucky enough to be able to get a copy from the foundation. And this is all about success through what? Through positive mental attitude, faith in ourselves. That's what a positive mental attitude is. It's faith in whatever it is that we're trying to do, whether other people think it's a good thing or not. It doesn't matter. We have faith. And we display that faith by our attitude, right? So how do you feed the faith for each one of us in our own environments? What do you do as a daily practice to feed that faith? Leroy.
One of the things I think is, when you have a small victory, maybe you weren't even it, especially when I first started or came out of the Amish where I came from, there was a time when I recognized, like, okay, their belief is that if you leave their church, you're going to hell. And then suddenly a thought came to my mind, said, that's not true. So I stepped out on that belief, and it held me, it's like it kept growing. And every little thing, along the way. I think if we keep getting thoughts of something and act on it, and it holds, and it produces fruit for you. That's one thing I think for me is how I feed my faith is to just act on what you know.
So Leroy, I want to ask you a question. I want to ask you
Yeah.
for an example. For example, when you have a thought that you, in the moment, think you want to pursue, what is an action step that you take shortly after that thought that makes sure that you follow through?
What's an action step?
Yeah, you just had the thought. You're in the shower, and you just had this thought, right?
Mhm.
How do you take action on that thought? How do you make sure you take action on that thought?
I don't know that I can really. I mean, sometimes I'll write it down, and then, or like if it's something, maybe me and my wife were discussing, and I don't know. I just I don't know if I explain it.
Okay,
Albert,
Albert's got his hand. I mean, Albert's going to try
yeah,
to help you out. He's got his hand up. Go
yeah.
ahead, Albert.
Yeah, I would say when I get a thought on action that needs to take place, I have my phone nearby inherently, right? Who goes anywhere without their phone? And I'll open up the note app and take a note that this is something I need to do later on that day during my time. Usually, when I get these thoughts of things and activities, it's because I'm alone in the shower and I'm communicating with divine intelligence.
Michael's
So I
not
can't do it
Michael.
at that time, but I can
I,
certainly record it.
I can tell by Michael's smile that he laughed when you said you were alone in the shower. So I mean, I just want to draw attention to Michael's smirk on his face when you said in the shower, I'm alone.
You
Okay,
got
go.
too much enjoyment out of that one tame sentence, and I tried to tame it down so nobody could say anything. But Mike, get your head out of the gutter, okay?
No, I was remembering because I said yesterday when we were chatting that when Albert was saying that he got a divine message, and I was like, that's why Albert wanted me to send him those voice recordings I'd made. so you can listen to them in the shower.
Hey, wherever it works, right? Wherever it works, you got to listen to it when you have the opportunity. But I think it's a great pen. And Michael put in the chat, and he said, "Great ideas are like slippery fish. You got to spear them with a pen." Right? And the minute I read that, I was reminded of oh goodness gracious, Jim Rohn. Jim Rohn has a recording out on how to journal. Right? And when Jim Rohn talks about journaling, I've got a journal. This is my journal. I write it in every single day. But as Michael wrote that in the chat, I'm saying, well, I don't do it the way Jim Rohn told me I should do it. See, Jim Rohn carried a journal with him everywhere he went. And when an idea came to mind, he wrote it down. And then he had a process that every single evening before he ended his day, he would reflect in his journal to remind himself of the thoughts that he had, the people that he met, the opportunities that he observed, so that he could then go back and address them. So, Leroy, I asked you that question not to put you on the spot, but to recognize, for all of us to recognize that we have opportunities that fly by us like a slippery fish every single day, multiple times a day. We need to learn how to draw in the net full of slippery fish, right? And by doing so, we uncover ideas that we can then put our faith in to accomplish what it is that we're trying to accomplish. Thoughts, comments? I see a lot of people nodding their heads.
Frank, something that I think that comes to mind, out here on the road, well, especially in the city, we'll pass these massive, massive cemeteries. I mean, just hundreds and hundreds of headstones. I forget where I heard it. I'm sure we've all heard it, but all the ideas in that cemetery, all the potential in that cemetery that was never taken advantage of. Just soaking that up. That's what comes to my mind, Frank.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? And yeah, that should come to all of our minds. How many people never followed through on the thoughts that we had, that they always said, well, maybe tomorrow, maybe someday, instead of taking the opportunity when it's there. Emmanuel, go ahead.
Yeah, I just also wanted to add to what you said regarding Jim Rohn. Yeah, that he also said that he wrote those notes, and after a year or so, he will publish them in a kind of his notes. And he was always saying that was the best treasure he will leave to his grandchildren, his notes and his pictures he took all over the world where he went to do different presentations.
Yeah, yeah. You using those notes to share, that was his legacy to those who came behind him, right? That was his opportunity to share with other people the experiences that they could be sharing. Are you living your best life? Talking to us in the room, are we living our best lives, or are we just letting life flicker by? Right? I was listening to the obstacle is the way this morning, and actually they were just getting into the conclusion. And one of the final statements that Ryan talks about in the book is he says, "Hey, every one of us is up against one obstacle that we cannot do anything about: death. We are all going to face it. We don't know when, but we know it's inevitable. And so our job should be to live the best life that we can live until that day comes." And because we don't ever know when that day is coming, we should not wait till tomorrow, because there may not be a tomorrow. Right? So, life is a great thing. Taking advantage of life for the benefit of everyone is a fantastic legacy to leave. I think one of the most challenging exercises I ever had to go through was writing a letter to my younger self. I've been through many training programs where they've asked me, we're starting today, and so 1 year from today, I want you to write a letter to yourself that we're going to mail it today. It's going to get to you excuse me, you're going to write it today. We're going to mail it so it gets to you 1 year from today. And what's the letter that you're writing to yourself? How has this life been? What did you do? What did you accomplish? What were your dreams? And it just I find it very, very challenging. So I understand when I ask people, hey, what is it that you want? And they get that deer in the headlights look, because it's challenging for us to think beyond today. Why is it challenging for us to think beyond today? Do we not have faith that it could be better? One of the
Comment on
things
that.
go ahead. Did somebody have a comment, Rob?
Sorry, Frank. Yeah, one of the
No.
things that comes to my mind is, I got back from this that man of war experience, and one of the things that you have to do prior to going to the man of war, you have to write your own eulogy. And so it's a bit dark, but they really make you put a lot of thought and time. Is they break you down physically, truly break you down physically, and then they make you read that eulogy. There was about 13 men left, each one of us in tears when we're reading that eulogy, because we're so vulnerable, broken down, exhausted. It really turned it into something powerful. I still have mine. It was just, you look at it, wow, I need to get off my ass, man. So something different.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, what you think about that, your eulogy. What are people going to say about you when you're not here? Right? I mean,
Once again,
that's
like different ways of baking the bread,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's all an attempt to do the same thing. These are all different angles of the same thing. And Rob just used it. I got to get off my ass. Those are the words that he used, right? I just the more we talk about some of the stuff, you guys, the more it just becomes so clear that these are all angles at attempting to do what is relatively simple, right? We're all digging our way through this beautiful thing we call life, and it's a beautiful dig, right? It's a beautiful process where we're carving this life into existence, and the fact is all of it takes work. It's all the same kind of work, and whether it's Frank's perspective or Leroy's or Emmanuel's or Albert's or Rob's or mine or the other Rob, like it's all the fact is it's all the same process, right? Defining what we want and then carving that thing into existence.
Yeah. So my question there, Michael, and yeah, you're absolutely right. Defining what we want. Number one, right? I'm just there goes my thumb. I love the thumbs up on my computer when I have no idea how it happens. But the number one thing, in fact, there was a debate between Napoleon Hill and W. Clement Stone.
Very cute, Albert.
And W. Clement Stone believed that the most important principle was, who knows the answer?
I don't know. I don't know this story.
Yeah. W. Clement Stone thought that positive mental attitude was the number one principle to the science of success. Napoleon Hill debated that and he said, no, 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 no. Definite major purpose is the first number one principle. And they actually, when they were in business together, agreed to disagree, which was how PMA became part of the 17 success principles, because W. Clement Stone was so adamant about his view and Napoleon Hill was so adamant about his, they just included them both.
That's interesting. So what do we think, guys?
Yeah, it's a great thought, right? What is more important? They all went silent.
Faith and persistence.
Faith and persistence.
Albert's going to include a third option. Damn you, Will.
They're none of them. They're all, I mean, one without the other is.
I think you need at least 2 or
Yeah.
3 out of the 17. And I don't care which 2 or 3 you pick, because the more you pick, the more they complement each other.
I love this. I love this. This opens up a whole new conversation, because Albert just said 2 or 3. Napoleon Hill actually had the big 4. J.B. Hill, his grandson, gave a lesson that I watched not too long ago. He says there's 8.
They're selling more books that way,
Recipes
that, right?
of bread. This just proves my
Yeah.
point.
That's right. Napoleon Hill later gave a presentation called The 5 Essentials to Success.
Gosh, that's so funny.
And I actually have created the 6. So, guys, yeah, how many It's all just bread, right, Michael?
All bread, man.
But we could throw in a fifth piece of the recipe. We could throw in a sixth piece. It's still going to be bread with just a little bit of a
Still
hint of
bread,
something else,
yeah.
right? Exactly. Go ahead, Emmanuel.
I think looking at Napoleon Hill and W. Clement, I think I look at it like Napoleon Hill is providing the mission, and also W. Clement is providing the strategy to achieve the mission. I think they are really very much interrelated, and they work together.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? The truth is, and by the way, when Napoleon Hill wrote Think and Grow Rich, or when it was published in 1937, he grew over the years. And his last book, I think his last book was Science of Personal Achievement, and there were a whole bunch of things in there that were different than what they were, or at least were displayed differently than what they were in Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if we don't grow with our thoughts and our philosophy, then we just rot and go away because we're not growing. We have to grow.
We're not practicing what we preach that way.
Right, exactly. We have to practice what we preach. As I'm looking at my notes from the foundation, and think repetition builds belief. All right, so I listen to the same stuff often. Have been doing so for years. I'll revisit the same books, and sometimes I'll read a book, and there's a section that was there that I didn't highlight, and I highlight when I read, and there'll be a section that, well, why didn't I highlight that the last time I read it? Because it didn't impact me the same way. Maybe it was 2 years, 3 years ago that I read it, but it's different now. So we owe it to ourselves to choose a philosophy, to be exposed, an open mind to all subjects. One of Napoleon Hill's 12 Riches in Life, to have an open mind on all subjects. So we're doing ourselves a disservice if we don't open our minds to other thoughts on the same matter. Go ahead, Michael.
I wanted to just quickly mention two things. So one, I heard this term the other day, and for me, it really resonated. I don't know whether it works for you guys, but for me, it really worked. Was that your brain is actually a bureaucracy, right? There is multiple different people inside you at any given moment, right? There's the version of you that wants to sit on the couch and have your cup of coffee, Frank, and watch World Cup soccer for the rest of the day and tell the planet to take a long walk off a short bridge. Right? There's the version of you that wants to get up as soon as this call is done and start pumping weight and doing the next thing and everything else. There's a version of you that wants to go, oh, I really want to get that book written, and down to the table you go. Or there's the version of you that's going to take your wife for on a whisker away on a 2-day disappearance trip, whatever it is. Like, there's a bureaucracy in the brain. And for me, that was a really helpful idea to understand that my objectives, the goals I want to achieve, are in negotiation. Right? We are in a negotiation with the bureaucracy of our own brains. The part that wants to keep us safe and just fed, the part that wants to do something incredible and altruistic and change the world and dent the universe, as I like to say, the part of us that wants to get physically fit and look at ourselves in the mirror and go, wow, I would date me in a minute, right? Like we're in this constant negotiation process. And when you think about it that way, I think it helps understand why we fall down these rabbit holes, why we get stuck in these certain situations, and why some days that negotiation feels so much harder than other days. And we can line ourselves up by repetition, by practice, by making by going, no, this is a non-negotiable for me. I'm always working out at 5:30 in the morning. Right. And so suddenly 1 year later, that's not really a negotiation anymore. Right. You're not negotiating with the bureaucracy. That's just how you identify. That's your belief system. And so I thought for me, that felt really valuable to understand what was kind of going on in the neurochemistry of my own mind. And it's helpful as coaches for us to understand that that's what's going on in our client's mind as well. Right. We're in a negotiation process with their own bureaucracy. And today, the version of Emmanuel that I get is gung-ho and ready to rock and roll and absolutely on fire. And then Wednesday's version wants to sit on the couch again, right? And it's like, God, but where did yesterday's Emmanuel go? Well, the other dude is winning the argument this morning, right? And then when you said something, and then to top or on top of that, when you talked about how do you practice faith, or Frank, or how do you refill your cup? And for me, I use something very similar to the scientific method when I think about it. I have an idea, I have a hypothesis, and then I look for evidence. I look for research. I go, who do I know that's done something close to this? Who do I know that's paved part of this pathway? Who do I know, right? What evidence can I see that there is proof that this is true? This idea has merit. It's got weight. Very few ideas are born out of absolute pure ether that have never existed before. We might be blending things together, but the fact is there's going to be evidence that is true and powerful all over the place. There's 8 billion of us on this planet. We're all energetically connected. We're all creatively connected. We're all spiritually connected, right? There's a flow to what's going on. And then it's testing. I have to test my own faith.
Yeah.
And then analyze the result.
Yeah. And I would
That's
like
how
to
I
just
worked on it.
I would like your thoughts on this, Michael, and just throw it out to the group. You said you were looking for evidence, right?
Yep.
And I think one of the cautions that I have to throw to myself when I'm looking for evidence doesn't mean I'm looking for somebody else's opinion to talk me out of what I'm doing.
No.
Right? Evidence is not going to everybody around you and say, hey, what do you think about this idea? Because almost guaranteed, the first 5 people you ask, 3 of them are going to say, oh, that's stupid.
Frank, I heard this thing yesterday that resonates with that from a mentor of mine. He said, one of the things we have to be really cognizant of and aware of that's super powerful for us is to understand the difference between noise and feedback. Right? Noise that gets in the way and dissuades you from what you're supposed to be doing versus feedback that actually is valuable and can help you move forward. One of the greatest choices we get in a world so busy, so full of words and communication that's constantly steady floating at us is differentiating. When Rob wants to go from point A to point B, which people in his life are going to give him feedback and which people in his life are just fucking noise. And that line is where most entrepreneurs especially go to die. They go to the wrong side. I mean, cheers to Albert. He is stuck on the right side of that line for a long time, and he's going to reap some incredible rewards for that. But there have been lots of noise in your life, Albert, I am sure, that has told you to give up what you're doing, to go a different direction, and stop pursuing what you're pursuing.
Yeah, and if I didn't have faith,
That's right.
I wouldn't be where I am right now.
Yeah, the antidote to that fear and confusion.
And there we go full circle, right? The example right in front of us. Leroy, you have your hand up. Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, a couple of comments, Michael, on that about the bureaucracy. I didn't know what that word meant, but I think I understand it now. But I've heard say, even like Jesus' disciples, they weren't actual people. They were that bureaucracy in his mind. And I kind of I would see it that way. And then when you talk about it's all bread, my first experience with this kind of material was Dr. Miles Monroe. And he had 5 questions that he said we must answer. Is who am I? Where did I come from? What can I do? What am I here for? What can I do? And where am I going? And I wrote those all down here this morning before this call. And I was going through that, and my mind came to every one of them I answered, I am that I am. It's Joe Goldsmith says, there's not God in me, there's just God expressing himself as me. So
Yep, the power of I am.
It's all comes back to I am. And what you call it, it's all bread. So I kind of ironic that it kind of sounded like the same thing to me. So
I think you ought to trademark that, Michael.
Yeah.
Rob, go ahead, buddy.
T-shirts, T-shirts.
No, a couple of things come to mind too. One of the questions that was asked earlier was which principle is more important, positive mental attitude or definite purpose? For me, it ebbs and flows. At times one's more important and times the other's more important. And for me, positive mental attitude this morning was important because went to my LinkedIn. Someone wanted my LinkedIn account address, and I went there. And as soon as I went there, the business partner that betrayed me, his picture pops up and his number something something in critical mining something something something. But that was the first thing I saw when I opened LinkedIn. In my mind, instantly I started having that conversation, like you said, Michael. Instantly we started having a conversation. But through the power of positive mental attitude and that all the things that I've learned through this journey, I was able to subdue that conversation, take control of it, find out the lessons I learned, bring out the directions I got from that experience and all the positives that came from it. And I won the day with that positive mental attitude because it could have gone completely a different way with a lot of colorful metaphors coming out of my mouth that does my mood no good. So it was I just wanted to comment on that.
Yeah. So, yeah, you know what? Those principles alternate with their level of importance, what the priority is, right? Depending what you're facing at that time. And just as we're speaking today, I'm always jotting notes down as we're talking and as I'm listening to everybody. And so I just wrote down this list of 5 things. I almost said principles, but one of them's not a principle. Um, Faith. I think first we always have to have faith that whatever it is we decide to do, we can do it. Right? That's the faith in ourselves. We have to have some type of purpose. We have to, what is your major purpose? And somebody said it, when I thought of definite major purpose, what's my definite major purpose? What do you mean for life? No, we can't, you know what? I'm sorry, guys. I just can't conceive of the fact that I can sit here today on June 23rd of 2026 and tell you what I want in my life until my last day. I just don't know. The world moves too fast. I do know that I want to continue to serve people, so I can wrap my arm around that and whatever that looks like. So you have to have what's your purpose for this year? Based on your purpose for this year, what's your purpose for this month? Based on your purpose for this month, what's your purpose for this week? For today. Breaking it down to the smallest thing that you can focus on today that will eventually bring you to where you think you want to go. And I use the word think specifically because that too may change. And it's okay. And I think we get so wrapped around this definite major purpose that, oh, I can never change that. It's engraved in granite. No, life changes things, and we do have the ability to change. So it's okay. Visualize what it looks like. My homework assignment for one of my coaching clients this week was next time we meet, I want you to submit to me your written description of what your life's going to look like in 5 years. And I know it's hard. And I'm anxious to see what he's going to write because that's the beginning of visualizing what you want things to look like. So, faith, definite purpose, visualization, positive mental attitude certainly plays into the game. Put it where you want to put it. When shit happens, you got to have the right attitude. Plain and simple. But most importantly, we started out talking about faith and fear. We can't let fear cause us to take no action. Uncertainty is fear. We face uncertainty every single day. When I get up from this desk and go play my round of golf, I am uncertain as to what's going to happen on the golf course. I have no freaking clue because I don't know who's showing up. But at the end of the day, we have to take action. I'm not going to get any better if I don't go out there and play. We're not going to get any better at life if we don't go out there and play. And the last note from what the foundation gave me in their daily thoughts, faith is a skill you can develop. Faith is a skill you can develop. Faith grows stronger with repetition, visualization, and action. And the key takeaway for that is belief grows stronger with practice. So whatever happens, practice faith because you can develop that as a skill, which gives you more opportunity than you could ever imagine. Michael, I saw your hand go up and go down. Go for it.
Oh, yeah, I was just gonna briefly mention a process that I'm walking myself through. I had this idea, once again inspired by a mentor of mine that suggested I try something, and I enhanced it a little bit for myself. And I will tell you guys how this goes. But I'm calling it the 100 steps method. And essentially, it was take the 10 objectives that you want to accomplish that would be incredible for the next 12 months. 10 things, right? What are the
Yeah.
10 things that you want to accomplish? Amazing things, right? So on my list are some pretty cool stuff, right? Including like a 3-week vacation to France with my wife and my kids for her 40th birthday in March. Like some cool stuff like that, right? Take each one of those 10 things and break them down into 10 elements or 10 things that need to happen for this to become reality. 10 times 10 is 100 things, right? How many weeks are there in a year, gents?
52.
52. Give yourself 2 weeks vacation for the year. 100 divided by 50 is how many? 2. So can you accomplish 2 of these steps? Oh, happy birthday, Frank. How can you accomplish 2 of these steps every week? Right? Like when you itemize it down, you've got these huge 10 objectives, these huge 10 goals. You break each goal down into 10 elements. Can you accomplish 2 of those major things every week? And where does that take you?
Yeah. What a great exercise. It takes you right into action.
Well, and like, do you accomplish them all at the end of the year? Maybe, maybe not. But the fact is look at how far you probably will have gone by taking all of that. And these are big chunks. These are like, I love the story of Steve Jobs that was like, Frank says, oh, it's going to take me, 3 weeks to get that project done. And Steve Jobs looks at Frank and says, great, you've got 10 days.
Yep.
Right? Get it done in 10 days. And you're like, well, how the hell do I do that? And he's like, I don't know, but that's now your job. Get it done in 10 days. And people thought, wow, this guy's a total jerk. And yet the fact is he pushed people a lot. Some people fell off the wagon. They couldn't hack it. But the fact is he pushed the evolution of Apple and what he was doing in his own company. And so many individuals that rose in those ranks, they were like, that was one of the best things he ever said, was he cut my timeline in half. So how do I accomplish this in half the amount of time? Right?
Yeah. Albert, I see your hand, but I see Leroy's hand was up first. So I'm going to go with Leroy first, and I'll come to you, Albert, and then we'll wrap it up. Go ahead, Leroy.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Michael, for reminding me of that. That I need reminders of getting that done. But I did want to share something. Frank, you didn't ask for anybody's wins, but at the beginning. But I'm gonna just say this: my youngest son, I feel like we've reached a milestone with him. He was born with E. coli infection. We almost lost him, but he had a kidney transplant about a year and a half ago, and we weren't sure about him getting his license. Is he going to be able? He had shaky hands, and just last week he got his license, and he turned 18 yesterday, and we just feel like we've really reached a milestone with him. So I just want to share that.
I love it,
Thank you.
Leroy. Congratulations. Congratulations to your son. And I am so sorry I didn't follow procedures and ask for wins this morning. So how do I make up for that? I'll ask it twice next week. So you better not disappoint me. Albert, you got it, my friend.
Okay, so I'm following up with what Michael was saying about cutting the time in half. Look, we live in a quantum shift reality. When you decide that change is here, it doesn't take days. It doesn't take hours. It takes the decision. Now, one more thing I want to say about cutting that time in half is this idea about time expansion. The amount of time it takes you to accomplish that task is probably 5 to 10 minutes, okay? But somebody gave you 2 to 3, 4 weeks to accomplish it. But it takes 5 or 10 minutes. If you take 5 or 10 minutes on a daily basis, you've already accomplished everything. And that's how I published 4 books, was to take 5 or 10 minutes a day, do my writing, and get it done. Now, time expansion allows you to take a month, but is that really accomplishing your goals? Because if it takes 5 or 10 minutes, all you have to do is shift to get it done.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Albert. I can't remember the actual rule and how I was taught it, but if you're given a certain amount of time, you'll take all of that time. You'll allow it to fill the time that you were given, when in fact it could have been done with 2 easy steps today, right? So, thank you for sharing that. That's a great way to wrap things up. Emmanuel, congratulations to your daughter as well, getting her driver's license. Everybody's getting the driver's license, and I'm heading towards losing mine, right? Because that's what's going to happen as you get older. They take it away. So just remind them all that they take it away at some point.
Not
So,
in my reality, Frank.
have a
Maybe
great.
in yours, not in mine.
I love it. Have a great. I have a golf cart, so I'm okay now. Have a great rest of your week, guys, and I will look forward to seeing you next week. I will put out the email because I can't remember what we're supposed to read for next week. I'll put out the email with a reminder later on today, as well as the replay. And please join us on WhatsApp. I sent you all the link to join us on WhatsApp if you want to have conversations behind the scenes. We encourage that throughout the week. So take care, my friends. It's great seeing you. Thank you for giving me your time. I appreciate you all. Talk to you later.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.